penetrate patterns, process complex data, provide better insights. The event is organized by Business Analytics Club, which is headed by Ms. Palak Gupta ma'am, Faculty Club Head. So for today's session, we have Nitin sir with us. Sir is currently a senior advisor at Rio Tinto, and prior to this, sir has worked with McKinsey and Company for more than 9 years as a senior solution analyst. And sir is a book reviewer, data scientist, and mentor at University of Austin. He has acquired professional skills in SQL Server, SSRS, SSIS, competitive analysis, data migration, and HR consultancy, and many more. And apart from this, sir is holding more than 10 international certification. So it is an honor for all of us to have you with us, sir, and to attend your session and gain from your knowledge and experience. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Palak ma'am and Ankita. Thank you so much for the brief introduction. Right. Hi, everyone. So again, my name is Nitin Sethi. Right. I am a senior advisor and a vice president with Rio Tinto. That's the largest mining firm across the globe. And Rio Tinto started the mining concept in India, which contributes about 12% of GDP right now across India. So we're one of these responsible people who actually started mining in India. And when I say mining in terms of we're dealing with metal mining, diamonds, iron ore, aluminium, copper, and a lot of other stuff across the globe. And we have a presence in 42 countries. Now, major role that I have in this organization is into human resource analytics. And I am starting from the recruitment, from the process of that, what should be paid, how it should be paid, what should be the global benchmark to set in terms of the remuneration for everyone, and what are the focus criteria to be higher on the machine learning algorithm that a robot can decide basically who can hire people and all that. So I'm working on these kind of algorithms, and I am a faculty and mentor for University of Austin for data science programs, and I have just started with MIT as well. That's the fresh one in 2022 for me. So I'll be starting off my first batch. So here I'm here for a Python workshop, and I'll quickly share my screen if I have the rights. So just allow me. Yeah, I can. So that's the LinkedIn profile that I have for you. Right. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Yes, sir, we can.
Right. Before I jump into a case study, let me talk about data or data analytics across structure. Whenever you're not able to hear me, just let me know. All right. So data analytics is something that is been a part of my domain, and every industry that wanted to grow from past 15 years that I am seeing that. I started off my career with Genpact with MIS analyst, and saw there are a lot of analytical approach starting from there until today when I'm teaching and when I work for these companies. Everyone is focused on data, right? So data, when they say data is the next oil, or data is the next breath for people, or the air for people, they're absolutely right. Because if you talk about any kind of industry, right, we thought about a lot of industries that they will not utilize data at any point in time. But even if you start with a grocery person, or you start with people who are just selling groceries, they also started with data analytics, right? So somebody who started off the business at any point in time with Amazon will still running the analytics at the end and understanding, okay, how the products have been selling, how people are buying it, right? Any product. So I do not call it anymore a big data, because by default, if we talk about this kind of population that we have across the globe, it is a big data by default. So data is big data by default right now. Where we're standing right now as the population, I'd say India, China, or other. 1 million records is new Excel sheet, basically. 1 million records are new Excel sheets that I have seen across the data set. I'll give you an example. I was working with SoftBank China, and this is like 5 years back, 6 years back when I was in Shanghai. I was working with this SoftBank China, and I have seen in 1 week, we used to get a transactional data into zettabytes, not into gigabytes anymore. it was into zettabytes, right? And this kind of data, when we have, it's so humongous that we would require tools to acquire in terms of analytics. I can't roll my eyes on a zettabyte kind of a data set when it's say it's billion or multi-billion or zillion records at one start, right? So I'll tell you how this transactional data set works, right? You have an ATM card or a credit card, right? You go to the bank, you go to the shop, you go to anywhere and swap your card. So imagine an SBI bank in India and a population which swipes their card every day, and it's a multi-transactional or the online transaction that you. Whenever you use a card, it's a transaction ID. Whenever you're using a transaction ID, that means you're creating a record. Now, how many people who hold up a SBI account, because that's the biggest bank PSU in India, that is why I'm talking about SBI. So SBI is one of the biggest PSUs, and think of the customers, that the customer base that we have with SBI. And every point in time, if you're using a debit card, a credit card, a prepaid card, anything has to do within financial institution, SBI, you just make a transaction and there is a record. Now think of the data set that out of 1 month, how many records we would have created for an individual also, right? It is a humongous data set. Now we wanted to understand, okay, what are the geographies? What are the geographies who are swapping our cards? Do we have POS machines in there? These people are utilizing ATMs at this stations, or do we need to have tie-up with the installation? What is our footprint analysis all across in metro cities or non-metros or urbans or rural areas, right? Or where do we need to open our branch, or we need to have tie-ups with the different branches who can actually access, people can access these cards. So every data set that you will see in terms of bank, insurance, wealth management, tax management, product-based companies like Amazon who are selling it, Swiggy, Zomato, all of this, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all of this are transactional product-based structures, right? Whenever you go to, you purchase a Netflix account, you purchase an Amazon Prime account, your transaction ID is created. You buy something from Amazon, your transaction ID is being created, right? You're one head, but you're making multiple transactions. That is how the data multiplies into zillion times of one transaction when it comes to the entire over top head of the country, of a company. That makes sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, great.
Yes,
in
sir.
case you have questions, please stop me and you can ask me questions, right? So when we talk about, so I've just picked up one of these Excel sheets, which is available on kaggle.com as well. And I just created a few examples on how do we think of data analytics, right? Now, data analytics is been a backbone to understand what will I do with my data set? What do I understand when I come from the data set? You can learn all of that. Sorry. Just give me a minute. Just allow me a moment. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. I'll just press something on my system. We'll come back. Yeah. So whenever we have a data set, or whenever we are talking about the overall data sets in terms of Netflix or any kind of data set, we need to understand, we can learn a lot of things on data analytics or machine learning algorithms or creating bots or something like that. But do we really understand what is in the data set? Right, that is one approach that I will show you today in terms of Netflix. I have certain questions to answer with the data set, and I'll answer with the visualization and the slicing of the data set. Major questions that the industry will ask you: do you really understand the data set? Right. What we wanted to understand while giving you questions in the interview is: do you really understand how to explore a data set? If you do not understand how to explore a data set, you might come from chemical engineer background, you might come from a let's say from an arts and humanities background, you come from from BCom or whatever, right? Anything can be a domain, but the data analytics remains the same for a chemical engineer or for somebody coming from an asset management or BCom or BA or humanities, or let's say no technical background or multi-technical backgrounds or whatever. Data remains the same, and data analytics for you remains the same. A lot of people come to me and say, I'm not an engineer, but I really wanted to become a data scientist. So being an engineer has nothing to do with what you see in the data set, right? So I come from an arts and humanities background, do not have an engineering degree, but I teach for University of Austin and MIT. right? And I'm taking lectures for, and this is from 10 years experience that I've been doing this all for, I'm teaching, right? So it doesn't matter which domain right now you pick. Eventually, how do you see the data set and how do you understand what is exactly the kind of questions I should ask? And there are no wrong questions. First of all, while you're learning, there are no wrong questions. You can ask multiple questions to people who are giving you data set. You can have multiple conversations with them any point in time. Right, let me just quickly show my screen also so that I can walk you through. Allow me a moment. Right, you can see my screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, great. Yes, right. Somebody on chat. Great. All right. So it doesn't bother anyone which domain you come from, right? So people do not ask for degrees, people do not ask for domains, people do not ask for particularly coming from a certain background that will hire, right? You can come from in humanities and you can work on a pharmaceutical data set, right? I have done that for Unbaxy and other clients with McKinsey, and I've done for multiple clients across the globe, right? This will take you in terms of understanding how and what do you really understand with a particular data set and how do you want to see that. For an example, tomorrow Haldiram comes up and say, okay, I need to sell my products in certain area which is rural, right? And you being an analyst, you need to tell them, okay, what should be the packaging? Now the packaging totally depends on the purchasing power of that particular geography, right? If you go to you go to rural areas, you can't sell them 1 kg pack or 500 grams pack or 100 grams pack, right? You need to have small pouches which can cost you around 5 rupees or 7 rupees because that is what their purchasing power is. If you're selling in somewhere around in New Delhi, in North Delhi, South Delhi, and you're selling it in that kind of places, you might want to have your bigger packaging there so that people really have that kind of purchasing power to buy that in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, or certain other cities when people are getting good amount of money as a salary, right? But if you go to rural areas, you can't have 1 kg or 5 kg packs as to be sold in the market because nobody will purchase at that point in time, right? So these are few set of things that you need to understand while seeing the data set. Do I really have a purchasing power that I can sell a product? Yes or no? Do I really have that kind of audience that I can sell? So I'll give you one example, right? If I really open a street shop, I'm selling ducks, right? So been to when I was working in the Thailand office in Bangkok, I've seen there are over the street, I've seen people are selling duck. If I open a shop, if I open a normal what do you call that normal street hawker kind of stuff in Delhi, any kind of street, do you think if I open a duck, I'll just fry duck and I'll sell it, start selling it, anyone will buy it? No, right? But if I do it with something with paneer or something with chicken, people will come to my shop, really, right? Because that is how the audience that I have. Yeah. That is how the taste of people. Yes, please. I'm sorry. Somebody was saying something. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, just agreeing to your point. Like
okay, right. So you need to see your audience while doing it, and similarly, when you get to analytics, you need to see your audience while you're doing that. So make sure the set of questions that you have need to understood by your audience, and the data that you're preparing to show the CEO -1. Tomorrow you're going to be the managers. So your direct contact will be somebody who is a CEO -1, CEO -2 at that level, right? You can't just get to a data set and say, okay, this is what I was looking for, but I did not get that, right? So you need to understand, okay, how do I get that particular data set to answer certain questions to show it to my management, right? You need to smart enough to tell people under you who are working with you, okay, these are the questions to be answered. Let's dig down more and get some visualizations, data slices, or some other driven by any point of technology, right? Python is one that I really look forward to because it can handle anything and everything that you wanted to work around with, right? So learning Python will be very, very good for your career going forward, because this is something that we from past 5 years, 7 years that I've seen the industry, it has grown a lot of potential, right? You can do a app development, you can do a web development, you can create a clouds on the same, you can do then again, it's the data for me. It is not the big data for me, it is data for me, because when I say data, that means big data automatically in the scenario that you are.
So, sorry to interrupt, but I guess somebody has a doubt or question to us.
Yeah, sure. I can't see that in the chat.
Yeah, some Manas has raised hand. So, Manas, any
Please
question?
go ahead.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Sir, as we were discussing about the pharma sector, I myself is from pharmacy background. I'm a B Pharma graduate. So, sir, you just stated that data analytics will help out in to know about the packaging about of a product. So, if we talk in terms of pharma products, how will it help out, sir?
So for an example, you really wanted to understand, okay, what are the generic drugs in the market and what are the salt compositions that you're actually buying from different sectors, and you wanted to compare the prices and the quality in the same salt, right? Or you have a substitute salt, so you can do a lot of analytics on the same and come up with a new formula which can give you, in terms of a patent tablet, you can have a generic tablet as well. So a lot of things on that's one example that I have seen and I've done worked on. So there can be a lot of things that you can work on, right? So patent drugs and non-patent drugs, generic drugs are one, life-saving drugs are second, cancer treatments, remission studies, your CHD diseases or their studies on the same, that can really help you. So it's a very huge sector wherein you can see, okay, this is the trend of a particular salt, and I really wanted to have a lesser amount so that the tablet that I'm selling can be people can buy it from any kind of store. But I have the salt that right now, which I'm utilizing, is somewhere around, let's say, 10,000 rupees a tablet, which is a patent or life-saving drug, right? So for an example, any one of the COVID medicines that you saw in the wave 2, there were a lot of drugs which were selling higher amount, right? But usually you can create one of the generic drugs using substitute salt, and you can do a quality check on the same. So that's part of data analytics, that you can fiddle around, understand same compositions, same impact of the salt, but it's a substitute name. That makes sense?
Yeah, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Anyone else who has a question? Great. All right. So I'll try to send you this Python notebook, right? So all of you have Python installed? I can walk you through how to install it in 2 minutes.
Yes,
sir.
Everyone, right? Great. So you understand this is a Jupyter notebook, right?
Yes.
Great. So I will try to send it to Palak ma'am and she can forward this one to you. So no need to write it. I'll just walk you through.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So basically the data set is also available in Kaggle, but I will send you the data set as well. So I'll send you the notebook and the data set, both of them. Right. So I'm just working on pandas right now. Panda is one of these libraries. You might have worked on the same. So I'm just exporting the data set. I'm just importing the data set using pandas. So I will just take the data set. This is how I've just imported the data set using pandas. This is CSV data set. This is how my data sets look like. It has a show ID, category, title, director, cast, country, release date, rating, duration, type, and description. These are the TV shows and the seasons and everything in the data set. When I say head, it will show me top 5 records so that I understand how the overall data set look like. So if I see this one, if I point it out, there is an and. That means there are in this column there are non-availability of the data set. That means there are few blanks in the data set that I can just make it out from here, right? This is the tail. I can see bottom 5 records in here. The shape of the data set, when we talk about, is like 7,789, and I have total 11 columns. And if I multiply both of the same, total number of elements, if I do not see a data frame, that is 85,679. Right? How many columns I can see? I've already talked about it. So I have a show ID, category, title, director, cast, country, release date, rating, duration, type, and description. Now, coming from this one, the 7th line that I'm talking about when I say data.columns, from here only, you can start writing your questions, right? So for an example, if I were you, I will start if I have this data set and I do not have questions to answer, what kind of questions that I'll say? Okay, how many categories do I have? are there any big directors working on the same? I do have a name for a director that I want to look up to, right? Or do I have a cast to look up to, right? If I wanted to understand, okay, multi-country data set, how many countries do I have? What is the release year? So we have the date, that means we can pull up the year, right? What are the top 5 rating shows that I wanted to see? That have the top ratings on the shows, right? What is the maximum duration? What is the minimum duration? What is the type of show people, what are type of genre or people are watching, and their descriptions, right? So I can make multi cross tabs on the same and understand where is this data set going. Does that make sense to everyone, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. So that's the data set that we have. All of the data set is basically objects. So we're not using any kind of algorithm to utilize. Otherwise, we would have done a lot of stuff in here, right? Data preparation is a second step when you understand the data analytics. So we'll talk about data analytics today, but I'm just giving you the takeaways from this one. So you might wanted to create few numbers out here to understand, okay, these are the numbers, and I wanted to do few analysis like a linear regression, or I wanted to do some understanding or prediction of series, that how can I recommend few shows to people and kind of the audience that I have, right? So you can do a lot of cat classification algorithms can be utilized in here. All right, so this is my data information again. Okay, do I have the duplicate? So my first question task is there a duplicate record in the data set? I'll remove the duplicate records from here, right? So let's say I have the data.head of my records, I have the shape, and I have the duplicates. So I have 2 duplicates here, and I will say, okay, impact the data set. When I say in place is equal to true, that means I'm removing the data set. And if you see, my data set from 7789 will become 7787. Does that make sense? So in place is equal to true means you saturate the values as well. Otherwise, the data will remove, but it actually does not change in the actual data set. So that is why I wanted to impact that particular portion of duplicate, and I wanted to remove them and keep the data set as it is. That makes sense to everyone?
If we use like in place equals to false, so the duplicate values will be there.
I will not use in place at all.
I
will not
want the
use
duplicate values to be there.
Yeah, in case I don't want to do, I will not use this keyword at all. So they will resist there in the actual data set. They'll remove from here, but they'll not be removed from the actual data set, the source of the data set at all. What I've imported earlier.
Okay, sir.
All right. Task number 2, is there any null values present in the column? Show the heat map. I'll show you how to create a Seaborn library that I've been utilizing for this one. So is null, do we have the values? I'll be utilizing data is null. Now this true and false is basically wherever the condition is false, and where the condition is true, that means there is a blank value there, particularly blank value there, right? So let's see, do we have it? Yes, in director series, we have 2388 blank values in casting 718, countries 507, release date 8, rating 7. So that means rest of all, we have all the values. Now let's start importing the C1 as SNS. I have imported one more library. I'm utilizing SNS.heatmap and data.isNull. So if you see that the white and black color differentiate between the blank values and the values which are actually false. That means true and false, which was the data set earlier here. So all of the false are black, all of the trues are white. Say this one. This is a heat map which can show you all the values that you're talking about. And none of the scenarios, right? I think you should more focus on the visualization, because when it comes to management meetings and when it comes to the high-level meetings, you need to have one tool which can help, which can be Python, can be Power BI, can be Tableau, not a PPT. Right now in the industry, nobody looks at PPT at all, right? So that's very old-fashioned. So you can pick up one of the tools, which can be Python, which can be your Tableau, which can be your Power BI. Right? These 3 things, wherein you wanted to do the visualization, you can pick up any of these. All right, question number 1. So for House of Cards, what is the show ID and who was the director for the show? So I'm again showing you the data set. Because of the session was like for 1 hour, so I prepared all the codes by myself. I'm not writing them at all. So I will send you the same file as well. It had been a longer period of time, I would have written the codes in front of you as well. But as a saves time for us, all of us, right? So data head, that's the actual data set that I have. Now, if you see, I've utilized a data set. I've used the square bracket to is in is basically equal to. So all of these values that I'm looking for, I'm looking house of cards. And if you see house of cards, I have all of the cast, country, release, rating, duration, type, description, directors, title, category, show ID, everything is in front of me, right? From here, I can pick up the person. Okay, what was the question to be answered? That was the show ID and who was the director for the show. So I have multiple directors here, Robin, David, and other people in here. I can pick up the show from here. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
This all filtration is basically your first step to understand how do we work in terms of the world of data analytics. This has to be your first step to understand what is in the data set. If you do not marry the data set, you will not able to work on data analytics at any point in time. Trust me on the same. You can't just go by the luck saying, okay, I will see the data set while doing the analysis. That is a very wrong approach. You might come up with a very dead answers and dead ends at spending your 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the analysis, which might not give you an answer, because what happens is, I have been into that. That is what I'm telling you. I've been into the stage where I ask the data set from the client and say, okay, I'm looking for a data set for the procurement, but they have sent me the data set for spend analytics. When I start doing my EDAs, which is what I'm doing on the screen, exploratory data analysis, I got to know, okay, this is the wrong data set. I'm not spending any more time. I just wrote a mail back and said, okay, this is the wrong data set. I'm not looking for this one. I'm looking for something with procurements, because I was looking for the procurement analytics at the point in time, right? So make sure that you're doing this EDAs, which is exploratory data analysis, which I'm doing for you right now. That will enable you with a lot of questions on your analysis as well, data fixations while you do a data preparation, classification algorithms, plus a lot of questions for the client as well. That, okay, I don't see this population in the data set. Is there any reason, or is there anything that I need to focus on because you have missed this data point or something like that, right? You can come up with different questions. And make sure that you're asking your stupidest question first, because you think, or we think that that's a stupid question, but actually can change the entire analysis when you get the answer on the set. So do not hesitate asking questions. All right, so we can say a string contains, we can utilize is in, instead of the is in, I can utilize the str.contains, which I've utilized here, house of card. I can again get the same answer. That's an alternative answer to this. That makes sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great.
So what is this str.contains?
So str is a string basically. So, and the string that contains, so that is what I'm utilizing instead of is in values. So if you see here, it's dot is in. So I'm getting this one, but instead of is in, I'm using str.contains. That means the string that contains the house of cards in the title.
Okay, thank you. Got it.
No problem. Okay, in which year the highest number of TV shows and movie were released shown in a bar graph, right? So that's my data set object, and I have the release date already with me. So I'll just see this one pattern, and if you see the count, I have 2019 maximum, 20, 18, 17, 16, and I have very less in 2010. Okay, let's plot a graph and see, okay, this is my frequency graph in a bar plot, and I can show that. That makes sense? It's a simple bar graph.
Yes, sir.
Right, you can do multi things with the same. You can explore a lot of things. If you're looking for cheat sheets, find me on LinkedIn. I'll give you my LinkedIn ID. Just find me on LinkedIn. I can provide you a lot of sources. How many movie and TV shows are in the data set? So you can actually understand and create a bar graph on the same using a group by statement. So that's my data set that I'm always showing you, that the first, that this is my data set. I'm looking for top 2 records. And I say data.group by on the categories and category.count. So I'm looking for a frequency check based on the movies and the TV shows. So in my data set, which was consists of 7,000 plus records, I have 5,000 plus records on the movies, and I have 2,000 plus records on the TV shows. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And you can create a count plot in here, which looks like this one. TV shows and movies. Well, any questions still here, guys? Great. show all the movies released in a certain year. So you can go and say, okay, data and the filter or that particular year. You can show that in the filtration, say year, you can put in the year like this one, and you can get all of the data set which was released in here. Let's see how many of them have been released in here. So I have 1312 rows into 13 columns. That is what the particular answer for a particular question, right? So I have created these questions to be answered at a first level, because when you get the data set, your client would like to understand what you have got out from the data, right? So this is why I've created this 12, 13 questions as a walkthrough in terms of understanding, do we really understand a data set or not, right? So make sure when you're starting with the business analytics or data analytics questions, you are framing certain questions, can be 50 questions, 100 questions, and you're answering them through like this. This should be a first step while you're getting into it. Learning an algorithm, which is very easy. If you think a machine learning algorithm will help you in getting a job, that's secondary. But if you do not understand data set, you will not get to a right answer. So this is the one crucial step that should be part of this one. And this activity can go up to 3 weeks to 4 weeks as well. Only and only EDA, because people don't want to step out unless they don't know their data set particularly. And a data science activity or a data engineering activity across the industry, what we see is start from 3 weeks to 3 months, can go up to let's say 9 months, 18 months, 20 months also, depending on your data set, depending on the concept that you're talking about, depending on the questions that you're answering and strategizing on the same. Tomorrow some bank come up and say, okay, I wanted to have a female specific credit card. Now you need to understand a female market across the geography that you're dealing with. Can be US, can be UK, can be India, can be China, can be Korea, can be anything, right? Until unless you do not understand that particular market like this one into detail, you'll not able to do any kind of synthesis on the same. That makes sense to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Any questions still here?
No, as of now.
Great. So show only titles of all the TV shows and were released in India only. So let's see. So I have filtered it up in terms of saying data category, TV shows, utilizing an and operator, and saying data country is equal to India. You can change the country and you can play around when I will send you this one. You can just utilize as you want it. These are the overall shows which coming from India. Okay, top 10 directors who have given the highest number of TV shows and movies to Netflix. Okay, let's see this one. These are the top 10 because you're looking for top 10. So that's why you guys say this one, count, and the top 10. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Correct. Show all the records where the category of the movie is a type of. So now you can define a country, a genre, anything within the data set. So I have done only comedy in a country, UK. You can go to different genres that you have and you can filter on one by one genres and you can create different data sets also, right? So for an example, right now what we're taking is category as movies. So I'm not talking about TV shows. I'm only talking about the genre as comedy. That means I'm not talking about action, kids, or the other genres that we have, right? So the overall data set that I can see in the comedy is about 97 rows. But the moment you put an OR condition, which is here, I'll show you the pipe. So this is a pipe which is used in an OR condition. So I'm just this one. Now this data will be multiplied because I'm talking about OR. So is it a comedy or is in UK, right? Let me show you the data set. It will multiply. So 485. The actual answer was 97, but I've chosen an OR condition. So that OR condition is actually giving you a multiple answers on the same. So either of them, it can be comedy or it can be UK. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Great. So now we're talking about in how many movies or shows Tom Cruise was cast. Okay, let's check this out. So I see none of them, right? But if I run this one, you'll see the answer. Okay, I'll just quickly run this one. I have an error which says cannot mask with the array containing any or none values. That means still my data set have a blank values, which I did not treated them. So I've just used a new data is equal to drop NA. I will quickly utilize this one. Head of the data set, which is this. Now, if I say Tom Cruise, there are 2 records that I can find out. That makes sense? So I've shown you an
Yes,
error
sir.
also. Cannot mask the error with an NA or a NaN values. That means it does not help us while we have the blank or the none values at all in the data set. It just throw you out, right? So you can just again go back and create drop NA into the new data frames. You can utilize the new data frame, filter it up on the cast and say, okay, I'm looking for Tom Cruise, or I'm looking for whatever actor that I have. You'll get all the records and you can publish both of the records. Clear?
Yes.
So ninth, what are the rating detained by Netflix? Different ratings that we have. So I can see that. Okay, I have TV. So I have total 14 ratings. If you see a number, 14, and I can print all of them in here. Right. I wanted to see, okay, how many movies got a TV 14 rating? So that will be somewhere here. TV 14. Do we have it there? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's TV 14 in Canada. So I have two of the filters in there. So I will say a data category, which is a movie I'm talking about, rating, which is this one. And I want to see the shape. So I'll get the data set as 1272 records with 13 columns, right? And if I say only the country Canada, I have 11 records in 13 columns. Clear? This is the level wherein you can create your notes on the basis of the answers that you get, right? You'll not be showing the entire code book to your client or to management, but from here you can see your notes and you can populate something. You can take this data set, create few charts, or do something on Power BI Tableau, or if you wanted to work on a PPT as well, you can extract this data set on an Excel sheet and you can do all the analysis in there. Right. And one of the good learnings that I have seen, like so a lot of people come up with a question saying, I'm working on Excel, but everything that Python is doing, I can work on Excel, right? It's the other way around. I would like to transform Excel into Python, not the Python into Excel, right? Take 10 tasks which you're doing in Excel. For an example, a VLOOKUP, a pivot table, an index match, or a group by, or whatever, SUMIF, COUNTIF, whatever. Try to focus and get these codes right in terms of Python. The moment you'll able to convert your Excel sheets to Python, that is where you'll have a win-win for sure. And you'll be learning Python at a good level. I have learned it that way. I've created my lot of Excel sheets to Python, and that is how I learned Python when I started off, I think, 8-9 years back. All right, the TV shows which has R rating. If you see this one, how many TV shows have got R rating in after the year 2018? Okay, so I have this one category which says data category TV shows, and the rating is R. Now I'll add it and say I'm talking about after 2018. That is only one record that I have, right? I can use the maximum duration of the record. Okay, if you see there's all durations here, you'll see 2 seasons. We'll see 7 seasons, 11 seasons. So we'll not talk about the seasons here because I'm talking about the duration. So we are doing an STR split. That means we're only talking about the maximum minutes, right? So we're splitting it by column. If you see this one, so data, minute, column, comma, unit, I'm splitting into 2 and say duration is equal to .str.split. And I'm giving a comma out there, blank and a comma to expand, and it'll give me a different answer. Let me show you. Just allow me a moment. See this one, minutes and the units that you see this one. Okay. Now, if I see my maximum number of shows, it's for 99 minutes. Minimum is for 1, right? And this is an inferential that I have. So it's the mean. So I will not take care of the mean right now because in the category. So let it be. I've just shown you that we can have a mean score as well. So so which individual category has the highest number of TV shows? So you can see this one coming from here. The category is TV show. United States have the maximum one. That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear? So you can see, okay, in United States, you have 705. We can sort it by data set. Of course, we can. So if you say data.sort underscore by value, and I use by and say is equal to year. So I can sort it by the year, whatever I wanted. Okay, that's another one that you can see ascending is equal to false, and year you can utilize by the year. Right, find the instance where the category is movie and the data type is drama, or the category is TV show and the type is a kids TV. Okay, the first one is that we have in line 95, which is category is equal to movie and the data type is equal to drama. We can see this here, 2 records, and similarly on the second one. Clear? Make sure that you are doing a detail on the same data set that you have. Whatever data set that you have should be a lot of details. That is the reason I've created this 12, 13 questions for you, right? To understand where are we going with this one, right? Do we really have answers? When we started off with the Netflix, right? We started off, okay, there's some data that we have on the Netflix, and this is what the data set looks like. But when we are answering the questions, we'll clear a lot of the air on that particular portion wherein we say, okay, how do I answer this questions? If the management has asked me a certain number of questions, do I really have a correct data set or not? The activity that I've shown you in this last half an hour is basically just to clear an air that do you really understand the data set? Yes or no? Are you able to answer the questions that have been asked by the management? Yes or no? Is it the correct data set that you're utilizing? Yes or no? Right, and furthermore that you can, okay, so this is the algorithm, or this is the data preparation activity, or these are the blanks, these are the different things that I've seen. I wanted to jump into the statistical articulation saying, okay, do I have certain values which are going really far from the base values that I can see, or do I need to treat them statistically or not? So these all questions will be answered when you actually do this entire activity that I've shown you in the screen. Right, so I'm open to all the questions, and I will, Palak ma'am, I'll just send you this one, this Python notebook as well, and the data as well.
It's a very good compilation of all the possible commands that we can dig in on the database. The students would really love to have a copy of this.
I'm gonna send this for sure.
So,
right, and in case you have questions or something like that, post this one. This is my LinkedIn account. You can find me Nitin Sethi space Rio Tinto on LinkedIn. You can send me a request and tell me just your name and space James. I will know that you coming from Jim because I don't remember all the names. I have not seen all the names also. So you can just drop in a hi there, and I will able to help you with your questions as well. In case you're working on something and you have certain questions, you can do that. Yeah. Any questions for now for me?
yeah, specifically, yeah, one-on-one.
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
So I have this question there, like n number of commands and commands in Python. So do we have to memorize them, or we get them by practice?
You will get them by practice. Don't do that. That you don't even try that. That you wanted to memorize all of them. No use.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
No problem.
Specifically, my senior batch students who are studying big data, they have no query. Divya, Muskan, Hamsha, Radhika, Sonali.
Ma'am, Nitesh is raising his hand.
Yeah, Nitish, go on.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I have seen your LinkedIn profile. Sir, so you have done your courses on 2017. There are many courses that you have done. So how did you manage that, so many courses?
How did I manage to do so many courses?
Yeah. So it's a bit difficult right now for me.
No, why do you want to do this right now? Just so when you're working on something, you find it interesting and you're learning it. So I have stopped putting them now. Overall, I might have more than 350 certifications.
Yeah, I have seen that.
But I can't put them on LinkedIn. So I don't know what people will think. So I've just stopped doing that now. So it's just that when you get a project, right? So for an example, I wanted to learn Python. I got a project 8 years back, and I started working on the same. Right. So I will pick up a course and I'll do that to explain myself, okay, what is happening around. Right. So that is how you should do that. Simple. Don't get into everything and anything right now. Right. So just let it come when it is coming to you. Right. So I'll just say, just be equipped with your arms and ammunition, ready for the war. Simple. Don't start using everything at first, one go. Right. Don't start learning everything. Sometime you need to unlearn to learn as well. So just make sure that you're going with the flow. Don't overburden yourself. It's not the right time.
So, but being from a non-tech background,
it doesn't matter. I come from an arts and management.
Yeah, I have seen that, sir. Sir, but live projects are difficult to get.
So that is where you need to teach yourself. That is what my answer to you is basically. When a project comes up, then start working on it and see, okay, this is one YouTube link. This is one LinkedIn learning that I've seen. This is one Udemy that I've seen, right? So then let it come, right? Don't start working on every project together. Pick up one by one. For an example, EDA. Pick up any data set. What I'm sending you right now will able to solve you for next 1 year everything. You'll not be utilizing more commands than this one for next 1 year if you're not getting into data science, if you're not getting into data preparation, right? So choose your project also, like what is your appetite for now. Don't see what people are doing. See where you want to go.
Logically, the students are really confused because there's so many clash of technologies outside, no? So they are actually under confusion state, which to command and which to follow on.
I'll tell you one thing. One, Excel should be in your veins. If you really wanted to become a data analyst, Excel should be in your veins. SQL is second. That will, a lot of concepts on big data and analytics will be cleared from if you know SQL at a big level. Subquery level, stored procedure level, at that level, if you understand SQL, right? Third, pick up anything, Python or R. It will solve a lot of your problems. Fourth, pick up a visualization tool, can be Python, can be Tableau, can be Power BI, any one of them. If you have equipped with these 4 kind of technologies, you are good to go in the market to get a job.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
So can you give some insight into how this big data analytics students can go over with it? Because like I do teach them about Hadoop and its interface, but practically we cannot do that much of tutorial or practical sessions on Hadoop. So how the students can go forward? Like Python is sufficient? They are already taking Python in that?
Python is sufficient if you know libraries like pandas, right? So if you understand a great level of pandas, you understand, okay, I can bring a cloud to my pandas and it is good to my Python. It is good. It is good for everything, right? Yes, you wanted to slice it down in terms of slicers or cubes or AWS or cloud computing. That's another level when you really don't want to do a business analytics, but you want to focus on big data cloud computing. Okay. That's an architecture level. That's a very different level which is different from data analytics. So I'm a data analyst, data scientist, data engineer. I don't focus on the architecture concepts. It is not my job. I have an IT person who is doing an architecture job for me. Right. So there is a division, right? You can't do anything. You can't deploy a project. I never will deploy a project because I am a data scientist. I'll create an algorithm and flow of the data set come from a big data source or a cloud computing source, right? But there's somebody who from the IT team will create a web page or an application wherein the data is actually putting my algorithm to that application, wherein an individual comes up and select few options and then they submit, and that is the algorithm is actually processing that on the basis of the algorithm that I have written. So that's how it works, right? Nitesh Rawat, I see your hand up.
So, but being a data scientist, don't you need to learn machine learning and AI?
You're saying for me or you're saying for yourself?
I'm just asking.
Me?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Sir, I teach data scientists.
Okay, sir.
Sir, I teach at the University of Austin and MIT. So I need to know data science before I teach.
Nitesh, you may feel like that sir looks very young in his LinkedIn profile, but he's really a mastermind who takes lovely sessions on mining techniques. So, sir, if we could have your video also, sir, so that students can see.
Sure. I can do that. Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, you have worked with McKinsey for 9 years and 9 months, as per your LinkedIn.
Yes, sir.
So, was you supporting corporate, what we call loyalty, or something like that?
Corporate loyalty? What is that? Sorry.
Sir, I have read about a term that the older the employer, it works for the firm.
I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't know.
He or she gets.
I'll tell you what. I left McKinsey because my learning stopped there. In 9 years, I learned a lot. I traveled about 24 countries, more than 100 cities within 9 years, right? I have a huge passport. And that's all thanks to McKinsey. And my learning stopped when I left the firm, right? That was it for me. And when the learning stopped, I leave the firm and I move ahead. So it was almost 10 years, a decade with the same firm. And I don't know about the corporate loyalty or something like that. I've never been into that structure or state of mind at all, right? So it's just that I was learning while traveling and doing a lot of things. So I think where it stopped for me when I do not had something more to explore on. So now I started with a new career in terms of human resource and mining concepts. I am learning here. The moment it stops here, I'll move away again. I mean, that's what my job proposition comes on, right? So it is not about corporate loyalty or something like that. I don't even know what is this actually. What is it? I basically
Sir, I have read this term in books.
No, I'm
That's
sure.
why I was asking.
I'm sure, but I honestly have nothing to say on that one, right? It's just about learning, right? So if I'm learning, the organization for me is not just getting the salary or not proving myself that I'm worthy enough, right? So it is about my learning. If I'll not grow, I will not able to teach other people. And that is what the passion is all about. And my passion is to teach, right? From past 10 years, when I joined McKinsey, I got into teaching, right? Until time I'm teaching, and I've made a lot of progress with the Delhi University. I've been a faculty for Delhi University on statistics department. I have been with a lot of colleges in Greater Noida. I've been with gyms earlier as well. I have been on the Kalkaji Center for teaching R. I think a year and a half back before COVID, I was there. And again with gyms. So I'm with University of Austin, with MIT. So it's just the passion is all about. And I don't know what is that, but still, it's again about learning. It's again about learning, right? You learn, you grow. And if the company is giving you that kind of thing that you can learn more and your appetite is that to learn, so that is what, and when it stopped, I just joined another firm which can give me something new. That's it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Students, any further queries? So I think you all must be motivated seeing passion of sir at this moment. See, if he's so motivated at this point when he's already taking data
I'm
science.
motivated by seeing the licenses, the credentials that he has uploaded in his LinkedIn profile.
I have stopped doing that, honestly saying. I have stopped doing that.
And the about section is filled with lots of the work that sir has been doing. I've read. I've been reading his LinkedIn profile right now.
It's great. So it's my piece of advice to all my students who are in business analytics club and in analytics specialization, that analytics is not something that we are just learning in class or we are doing practical in labs. It has to grow from within. You have to be passionate about each and everything. Even if you're watching any series, how is it coming? How do notifications come to you? What sort of TRP rating is going? What are the recommender systems behind it? So there's a lot of things that we need to actually study before actually using it without realizing the analytics that goes behind it. So that's my piece of advice to everyone. And now I request Ankita to formally propose a vote of thanks to sir.
Sure. So very thank you, sir, for such an informative session. And we honestly gain a lot today and wishing to gain more insights from you in future as well.
Sure.
Today, like how Python has been useful in big data analytics and many other things, like for our future course also you guided us. So it means a lot, and looking forward to more sessions with you.
Sure. Anytime. Glad to be here. And one piece of advice to everyone: there is a Netflix series known as The Social Dilemma. Just search it on Google, you'll find it, and just watch it. It's worth watching. You'll understand a lot of algorithms, a lot of things, that how you being a product by Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, right? So it's Social Dilemma.
You are the first one, sir, advising to watch a Netflix series.
I learned from that also.
That one is literally a worth watch, sir.
Yeah. Social Dilemma. It's an amazing to watch, and you'll understand what is being a product, right? You'll understand how this social, this entire social thing is taking you and where, and how you being a product, and what is being shown and how is being shown. You'll understand a lot of analytics done on the same, right? Take it on a positive side.
Okay, so really nice session, sir, because it was not just full of content that usually in workshops we have, but it was full of mix of advice, laughter, and knowledgeable piece of Python exercises also. So probably when I receive it from you, then I'll share with my students also so that they can be benefited from it. And I would really appreciate the efforts of Business Analytics Club for their initiative in putting up this workshop, and to Nitin sir, of course, a lot. The reference I got from Shruti ma'am. So really, we will cherish this bond for in future also. So, I'm really thankful to you for sparing this precious time to a student.
I'm so glad that you called me.
Thank you so much. So students, thanks for attending the session. And junior students, you can join back in your respective classes, and business analytics students will join in a Google Classroom. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.